Hi, I'm on the floor of the Catholic Marketing Network trade show at the Ave Maria Press booth with author Mike Aquilina.
Hello.
It's nice to talk to you. You certainly have a varied career. I was laughing to see that you're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Well, I've written music with Dion DiMucci, and one of my songs got recorded by Paul Simon recently, so I'm pretty excited about that.
You can't do better than that. And Dion, of course, wrote a great book. We interviewed him about that. But we're here to talk about your book coming out in September called A History of the Church in 100 Objects. Tell me what made you write that.
Well, I've always been fascinated by history and archaeology. You know, what we dig up from the ground tells us about how people lived. It brings a world alive, you know. These things excite us, and these are the things that represent the people. It represents their ordinary faith. These are the things they held on to, they kept, the things that lasted. They treasured them, and we're digging them up today. They tell us about how people lived then. So what I wanted to do was go through history, and at each period in history, take one artifact, an ordinary artifact from life, and tell the story of that era based on that one artifact. So it was fun to do, and I wrote it with my daughter Grace. So we got to walk through history together. It was a lot of fun.
That's great to hear. You know, as Catholics, we're known as the people of smells and bells.
Yes.
But also, very tangibly, our sacred artwork, things of that nature. Did you find any surprises?
Well, everything's a surprise. When an archaeologist goes to a site, he doesn't know what he's going to find. You dig into the ground, you put the spade down, what comes up? It's a surprise. So at every stage, I had stories I wanted to tell, and then I had to find things that related to that story. So the pen used by a scribe, a wax tablet, a pair of shoes, very ordinary things, a child's cradle. All of these things from different eras in history. And as I said, they were unusual things. So in a sense, every single one of them was a surprise.
That's a great thing to hear. You know, there's so many touchstones that we have as Catholics or things that appeal to us. What are the things that resonate with people most commonly?
Well, I don't know. I hope every single chapter of this book will resonate with people, because all of these things, these objects, all of this stuff resonated with me. Okay, so you find some things you'd expect, like rosary beads. You're going to find rosary beads because that's a thing that we hang on to as Catholics. But you'll also find some unusual objects in there. You'll find paving stones with graffiti carved into them and that sort of thing from 2,000 years ago. So there are different things, and as I said, I think people will be excited. I hope they'll be excited with every chapter and a little bit surprised.
That's great to hear. We'll be airing this interview right around the book release, but also around the time of Catechetical Sunday when we talk about faith formation, religious education. What can families learn from these objects, and what can catechists take away?
Well, I think it kind of... I'm having a freeze here. Maria Montessori, the educator, made a great point that you can teach when you can touch, right? I mean, if there's something that you can lay hands on, you'll learn better. It's tangible. And this makes history tangible. It follows that method where you can look at things, hear things, touch them, and that sensory data makes the lesson all the more memorable for children especially. So yes, I think there are lessons for catechists in how to convey these difficult truths of the faith, how to convey episodes in history and many other things about Catholicism that maybe they struggled with. Now they can tell a story. Now they can show a picture. Now they can pass around an object and everyone can hold it in his hands.
For sure, and we all have different learning styles, and certainly we'd love to be surrounded by beauty.
Yeah.
In our Catholic churches that were closed, people were most concerned about where the objects would go, stained glass, things of that nature. So we are very sensory people. Tell us how that really enlivens us to engage in a closer relationship with God.
Wow. Well, this is the way God dealt with his people all through history, all through the Old Testament, all through the New Testament. In the 4th century, St. Gregory of Nyssa said this. He said, God made matter, and God used matter for our salvation. In the Old Testament, Moses used an ordinary staff, a hazel switch, he said, the kind you throw into the fire, but he used it to work great miracles because God endowed it with great miracles. God showed himself to Moses through a bramble bush. He healed someone, brought someone to life with the prophet's bones. So all of these material things are used to make a point, to make a miracle. And it happens again in the New Testament as even the handkerchiefs that belonged to the apostles were used to heal people. So this is the way God works. It's the way he worked in the Old Testament and the New Testament, and it's the way he continues to work in his church today.
I think you're right, too. We express our creativity through so many different mediums, and one medium is photography. And, of course, you have a picture taken by His Eminence Cardinal Sean.
Yes.
So tell us about how you selected that.
Well, it's interesting. I wanted to write about St. John Vianney because he was the great patron of parish priests, and also he spent hours in the confessional. So many people came to him to confession that they had to build a new train station in his little village. So I wanted to get a picture of his confessional. So what did I do? I went on Google and I searched around, and the best photo I found was taken by Cardinal Sean during his pilgrimage there. So I wrote an email to the Cardinal and I asked him, and he gave permission for me to use it in the book.
That's great. So everything comes back to Boston. So thanks so much for being with us, Mike. Where can people get their own copy of the book when it's released in September? And where can they learn more about your work?
Well, the book will be published by Ave Maria Press, and you can find it online. And my own work is featured at fathersofthechurch.com.
Another a memory for us to hold on to and learn more about the church, the fathers of the church. Thank you. Thanks so much for your time, Mike.
Thank you for having me.
Now back to the rest of This Is the Day.